Free agency in the NBA is in full swing at the moment. Now, there's a lot going on, a lot to digest, a lot of moves this year. I mean, there's typically a lot of moves around this time. So I don't think people are kind of overreacting, saying this is one of the quote-unquote wildest free agencies that we've had in a while. I don't particularly believe that because I feel like we say that every single year unless it's completely like Omega stale, which for the most part it's not. But either way, let's go through all of the moves that we've had thus far, and let's talk about them all in at least a small amount of detail. So we'll start with the most recent and go back to the least recent. We'll start with the Bulls add Goran Dragic. 1 year, $2.9 million deal for Goran. And honestly, as a Bulls fan, it's very tough to grade this or assess this in any meaningful capacity. I mean, he played okay, I suppose, when he actually played. Like, whatever. I don't think this really moves the needle for the Chicago Bulls. I mean, if he's healthy enough to play at a even semi-competent level, I think that does give us an additional floor general off the bench. But overall, I don't think this is an exciting move. Just another veteran point guard that we can throw in there and hope he produces in even a small amount. Josh Okogie departs for Phoenix. I mean, once again, not another move that really moves the needle in any capacity, but it does add some wing depth for Phoenix, so that's cool, I guess. Like, I don't know. If you're a big Josh Okogie truther, which I'm sure there's at least two of you guys out there, then you're probably stoked for this. But once again, I mean, it adds a little bit more rotational depth for Phoenix. Cool. Zion Williamson signs massive extension with the Pelicans. Zion agreed to a 5-year rookie max extension worth up to $231 million. I was about to say $23 million. My God. I hate this. The deal does include protections, which, you know, as it says, are safe to assume to be injury related. But at the same time, this man has played 85 NBA games. And although he played incredibly well and incredibly productive in those games, that seems like a very vast amount of money to give to someone who has played in total barely over a total NBA season's worth of games. And that scares me. I don't know. I'm not really the biggest Zion Williamson guy. I'm pretty much a Zion Williamson hater at this point. I don't believe that he deserved this large of a contract. I don't know. Maybe you feel differently. Let me know down in the comments if you do, but I just feel like maybe giving Zion that much money was kind of a bad idea based on his already vast injury-related history in just a short time in the league. Maybe not the greatest idea. That's just me. And the Pelicans actually have a bright future with the core that they have. I think they let go Lonzo Ball, which I think was dumb, personally. Granted, it benefited the Chicago Bulls, and he has had injury issues in the 1 year we've had him, but I still feel like that was honestly a stupid move to begin with. And then I feel like this is not the smartest move either. Cody Martin stays with the Hornets. Once again, it really doesn't matter. 4-year, $32 million sounds like a lot, but really that's just kind of median at this point for what NBA rotation players are getting. Cody Martin isn't exactly the most exciting player in the world, but they did just lose Miles Bridges to, let's just say, charges. So any wing depth that they could bring in is probably going to be helpful in some capacity. Whatever. Darius Garland, max extension with the Cavs. This makes sense. I don't know what they're going to do with Colin Sexton at this point, but Garland is a true stud. So this is the opposite of how I feel. I almost did the Minions thing for a second there. I did not mean to do that. This is, I think, the opposite of how I feel about the Zion thing. I think this was a really good move by the Cavs. So I would give this like an A+. I think locking down Garland was smart. He is the point guard of the future for that squad. Bismack Biyombo returning to the Suns. I mean, cool. Like, sure, fine. Suns acquired Damian Lee. Once again, fine, I guess. I don't know. Sure. Bryn Forbes agrees to deal with Timberwolves. The Timberwolves are just kind of loading up on this free agency. Like, they really are. They're trying to get everybody. I personally think Bryn Forbes isn't the worst player in the world. He's a pretty good rotational piece, so I actually think that's kind of a good move from the Timberwolves and gives them a little bit of like bench firepower. Like, Bryn Forbes can score at least, you know what I mean? Jalen Smith sticking with the Pacers. Love Jalen Smith. I'm a big Jalen Smith truther. I think that's fantastic. He is an excellent bench option and could blossom into potentially like a rotational player, even a starter perhaps. Warriors bring in Dante DiVincenzo. I love this for the Warriors, by the way. I think this is phenomenal. He does have injury concerns for sure. Maybe it's my team pedigree, but I love Dante DiVincenzo, and I'm not entirely sure why. And I think this was an excellent move, honestly. I think, especially because they lost Gary Payton Jr., like, I think bringing in Dante DiVincenzo gives him another kind of more or less 3-and-D guard that would kind of flourish in the Golden State system. So, Celtics return Luke Cornett. Dope. Sure. Why not? Luke Cornett can come out here and get some minutes. Oh, no, not Belinka. He's going to play Euro hoops. Oh, he's in the Turkish league for a $4 million contract. Damn, that's crazy. All right, whatever. Here's the big one. Timberwolves add Rudy Gobert in a blockbuster trade with the... All right, so here's what I got to say about this. Does this immediately make Minnesota a better team? Yes. I believe that it does. That car doesn't sound like it's doing too hot out there. Now, I believe that it does make Utah a better team right now, but they gave up a lot. They gave up Malik Beasley, who I actually don't think is... I think that's actually a good fit for both of them. I think Malik Beasley will get more opportunity and more shine out in Utah, so I actually think that was a really good move for him specifically. And for Utah, that picking up Malik Beasley is nice. Like, he's a very good offensive player. Patrick Beverley, I mean, that helps them improve immediately, but not long-term. But I think they're going to use Patrick Beverley as more of a trade chip. They're going to let him play it out, play well, and then trade him to a contender probably. So I think that was actually a smart move on their part. Jared Vanderbilt has some promise as well. Leandro Balmoro, I don't know much about him personally, so I can't say about him. The 22 first round selection, Walker Kessler, I think he's actually not bad, so I think that's another really, really good. I think he can be like Gobert-like in a way as far as his defensive prowess. 4 future first round picks is wild, to be completely honest. I mean, Rudy Gobert is a 3-time NBA Defensive Player of the Year, so it's not like he's a scrub by any means. I mean, just because he can't stroke the ball from outside, people seem to think he's ass or something, but like putting him next to Karl Anthony Towns, that's actually a really good move. It really neutralizes a lot of Karl Anthony Towns' deficiencies, which are glaring on the defensive end, to be honest. He's not the worst defender ever, and I think he does get overly criticized at that, but still, like, adding Gobert does help a lot. I'm not sure if they gave up too much. The players that they gave up, I don't think are terrible. Though I would have liked to see exactly what Walker Kessler could have brought to the team prior to just shipping him off for Gobert. But the 4 future first-round picks are troubling. Minnesota has a wee bit of a history of doing things of this nature, so like when I initially saw this, it's not something that I thought about in a good light, because like they do these things like all the time. So, I don't know. I don't trust Minnesota's trade history. Let's put it that way. Derrick Jones Jr. returns to the Bulls. We like to see that. We like to see Derrick Jones Jr. return to the Bulls. I actually really liked him as a free agent last year. Once again, not something that's going to, tip the scales in the Bulls' favor. I still think we're going to end up as the 5 seed absolute maximum, but, rotational depth. It's cool, and he's a decent younger player, so fine. Celtics agreed terms with forward Danilo Gallinari. I actually really like this for the Celtics. It's unfortunate because I despise the Celtics with a burning passion, rivaled by almost no one in the NBA. That being said, Danilo is a very good player to come off the bench for them, someone that can come out and hit shots on a consistent basis, and I mean, he's got a big player build. Like, it is what it is. I say player build like I'm talking about video games again, but I think Danilo was a good move for them. They didn't pay very much for him. Looney to the Warriors, sure, why not? Who cares? Brogdon. Now, this is another one that people were talking about, and a lot of people are talking about this move like this really, really tips the scales for Boston. The thing I will say is they didn't give up that much for him. Like, they didn't. Like, Nesmith could turn into a decent player. I don't know. I don't know much about Malik Fitz or Juwan Morgan. The 2023 first-round pick is likely not to be very high, so I don't really think that's a huge drag for the Celtics. Like, it's probably in the 20s is my assumption. Brogdon, though, is turning 30 and has had injury concerns for majority of his career. So I don't know if it was worth it, but at the same time, I think Boston gave up so little. Like, I don't think any of these players were really helping them out. Like I said, Tice was awful. Like, Aaron Nesmith showed some promise. Cool. Nick Stauskas, hell yeah, dude. I didn't even notice he was in here. That's my boy. Shout out to Nick Stauskas. I don't know much about Juwan or Fitz. So, I mean, they're essentially just swapping a bunch of randoms and a 2023 pick for Brogdon, who, when healthy, plays at a pretty elite level. So I think it's a worthwhile swing and a miss, or not swing and a miss, but just swing period for the Celtics. I think they've been smart, you know. Kevin Huerter acquired by the Kings. I don't know what the Kings are doing, and I'm not sure this is really going to help them. They traded Justin Holiday, Mo Harkless, and a 2024 protected. So, I mean, they didn't really give up that much for Kevin Huerter. And, I mean, if they bring Kevin Huerter in, let him flourish, and then trade him to a contender, I think this was a good move. It really just depends what they do with Kevin Huerter. Knowing the Kings, though, they probably bring him in, let him play really well, and then lock him down on like a way too large extension, knowing the Kings. So we'll see. Like I said, they flip him or let him walk in free agency whenever that comes. We'll see. The 2024 protected first-round pick, fine. Mo Harkless, Justin Holiday are just eating salary on that team anyway, so it's like whatever. And, I mean, for the Hawks, I don't really know why they did this. Justin Holiday is not very good. Mo Harkless is like, okay, 3-and-D guy, but like Kevin Huerter was pretty good for them, so I don't really know why they did this, but they brought in so many wings. Like, they just brought in AJ Griffin, so it's like you kind of had to get rid of them, but then at the same time you brought 2 more back in return, so I don't know. I don't know. Whatever. John Wall agrees to a 2-year deal with the Clippers. I actually think this is a lot more promising than people are talking about. I think John Wall to the Clippers was actually a really solid move. John Wall has more gas in the NBA. He does. Like, a lot of people think he's washed, but he's really not as bad as people think. Like, he can still come out, especially if the offensive load is not on him, which it's absolutely not on the Clippers. Granted, the Clippers are just one big ball of injuries and injury concerns. I still think John Wall could flourish in that system playing alongside the players that he's playing along. So I think that's actually a pretty good move. I think that might actually be beneficial. 2 years, $13.2 million is not terrible either. Like, it's worth taking a swing on somebody with the talent of John Wall and just hoping it works out, especially when you're not really able to get anything else in free agency. Nurkic to the Blazers is whatever. Nurkic is also dealing with injury concerns nearly every season, so it's really tough to gauge exactly how good he is. I don't know. If Dame likes Nurkic, then you lock him down. That's all I got to say there. Zach LaVine gets 5-year max from the Bulls. God damn it. God damn it. Oh, my. I hate this. I absolutely hate this. I despise this. I truly despise this move, and I would give this move a D. I would give it a D. I'm not even ranking them, but I would give it a D. I hate this move. Now, should we have let Zach LaVine walk for nothing? No. But do I still hate the idea of giving him a 5-year, $215 million max deal? Yes, I do, and here's my reasoning for it. I am a Zach LaVine hater. As a Bulls fan, I dislike Zach LaVine. The reason I dislike him is nothing personal. I think Zach LaVine is a fine player, but I think he gets a little bit puffed up and a little bit overhyped by Bulls fans. I think that's 100% accurate, right? I think that Zach LaVine is like, you know, one of the best players in the 2022 free agency class. Is I think he does get puffed up by the fact that the free agency class was a little bit meh this year. All this does, essentially, to me as a Bulls fan, and I've been dealing with them, you know, obviously my whole life. I don't really count the Jordan era. I was like 5 and 6 when that ended, so it's like whatever. My tenure as a Bulls fan began in 2000, 2001. That's when I really started to pay attention to the Bulls, and it's been nothing but tragedy since then. So all this says to me, what this says to me is that we paid $215 million to essentially guarantee ourselves the, let's say, 6th to 4th seed every year for the next 4 years, right? And then fall off a cliff with absolutely no assets, basically. That's what that says to me, because I think all this does really is keeps us perennially in the middle of the pack in the East. Granted, I could be wrong. The East is probably the most wide open it's been since maybe 2008, I would say. Like, there's no clear-cut team. And when I say 2008, I mean 07, 08, like the beginning of that season before or right around the time that the Boston Big Three was formed. I think that was prior to the Big Three. That's probably the most open the East has been, aside from right now. I mean, yes, we have the Bucks and the Celtics and the Heat, who have been to the last 3 finals and could easily get there again. But I still think there's a sense of questioning, a sense of wonder in the East. Like, you don't really know who exactly is going to make it. So it gives me a glimmer of hope that maybe we can just like squeak by if every other team gets injured, you know? But still, I don't like this. I just feel like we need to part ways with Zach LaVine as soon as possible, and I don't know if signing him to this massive deal is going to help us do that. Like, if we do even want to end up trading him, we're going to have to end up eating a lot of this salary, which sucks. So, Warriors lose Otto Porter Jr. to the Raptors. Now, I would say this is not good because the Warriors are one of those teams that just kind of inflate players' values on a near constant basis, but Otto Porter actually left from a place where value is inflated and went to a place where value is also inflated, which is the Toronto Raptors organization. So I actually don't hate this. I think he'll do just fine on the Raptors as a rotational piece. I think it'll be actually pretty good. So Nuggets post Bruce Brown from the Nets. Whatever. Like, the Nuggets are just stacked with random players on their team, so it doesn't matter. Like, Bruce Brown's okay, I guess. Aaron Holiday. So they got double Holidays in the mix. They got Justin and Aaron. Like, cool, fine. Mitchell Robinson gets $60 million deal from the Knicks. Whatever. Like, I actually like Mitchell Robinson. Granted, he has injury concerns as well, but I think the Knicks are just handing out money to the most random players on the planet at the moment, and I just think it's, once again, just not going to turn out well. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Julius Randle, now that the offensive load is a little bit off him with Jalen Brunson. I can't even spit that out. I don't think Jalen Brunson's a bad player, but Jesus Christ. Ricky Rubio staying with Cavs on multi-year deal. I like that. I think Rubio is really good for the Cavs. He's a really good veteran presence and a good bench point guard, so I think that's fine. Yeah, he's 32, but whatever. They didn't pay him all that much. 18.4 for 3 years, fine. I hate that. Gary Payton II left the Warriors for the Blazers. I actually think that's really, really good for the Blazers. Now, Gary Payton II may be one of those Warriors kind of situational players that I was talking about earlier, but he plays lockdown defense, and anything to back up Damian Lillard and Anthony Simons is going to be beneficial. So, well, you do what you got to do to try to puff up that roster as much as humanly possible. And the addition of Jeremy Grant was phenomenal. I actually kind of like their team now. Like, all these extensions are great. I don't have any issue with these. Towns is a lot, but it's worth it. Booker is a lot, whatever. Jokic, yeah, you do that. You give him the NBA record at this point. Morant, yeah, you do that as well. Oh yeah, the Bulls got Andre Drummond. As long as if we can get Blake Griffin, we can have the starting Detroit Pistons front court from 2018, which is what I've always dreamed of having. So we should do that as well. No one's excited about Andre Drummond. I'm sorry. Jalen Brunson, I think, was a horrible move. Like, Brunson averaged 16, 4, and 3.9, which is like fine. And I mean, yes, he was decent in the playoffs, if not very good in the playoffs, certainly. But how much of that is from playing next to Luka Doncic? Just a thought. I don't know if the Knicks maybe thought of that at some point. Like, hey, maybe he kind of popped off in the playoffs because, they were busy triple teaming Luka. Like, maybe that's why he popped off. They didn't really seem to think about it. Also, they got Isaiah Hartenstein for $16 million. The Knicks just don't seem to have any type of direction. They're just kind of throwing money at the wall and seeing what sticks at this point. If you're a Knicks fan, I'm sorry. And I'm a Bulls fan. We're being awful. We're poverty. Kyle Anderson to the Timberwolves. I like this move actually a lot. I think he'll actually be a very good addition to that squad. Like, 2-year, $18 million is nothing too. Like, that's a solid deal. It's sad that I'm talking about $18 million as nothing in this context because, like, if I found a 20 out on the street, that would make my day. So, it is what it is. But Kyle Anderson, I think, will actually be very good for that team. Like, they need more 3-and-D wings. They really don't have very many of them, so I think he'll play very well for them. JaVale McGee and the Mavericks. Contrary to popular belief, I actually think this is a good move. They had absolutely no interior assistance. So getting JaVale is, I can't believe I'm saying this, it's not the worst thing in the world. He at least is going to bring some shot blocking and interior presence. The Nets re-signed Patty Mills and Nick Claxton. Nick Claxton, I think, was a good move. Patty Mills would make sense, especially if they end up losing, Kyrie and Kevin Durant, which is looking more and more likely by the day. I think that actually will be beneficial because you could trade both of them for pieces if you want. Nicholas Claxton is a, young big man who I think actually showed some promise. They just didn't give him enough run. And I think Patty Mills is a guy you could always trade at the trade deadline. Lakers make 4 additions. I forgot Malik Monk went to the Kings once again. Very Kings move. Don't know what they're doing. Lonnie Walker, by the way, for a 1-year, $6.5 million deal was phenomenal. It's one of the best moves the Lakers have made in years, to be honest. And by the way, I'm somebody who thinks that the AD move was actually a bad idea. Just keep that in mind. I know they won a championship, and I get that, but you had Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball, and I just feel like those two guys with LeBron probably would have been just as beneficial, and they probably would have got you at least close by this point. Brandon Ingram is a stud. I am one of the biggest Brandon Ingram truthers in the entire world. But Lonnie Walker, I think, is a lot better than people realize, and I think he'll actually be really good on that team. But I said the same thing about Malik Monk, so I could totally be wrong. Troy Brown Jr., shout out to him. Just some bench depth. That's fine. Damian Jones, whatever. It's cool. Juan Toscano Anderson, I think, is actually it's a good move too. I think that adds some bench depth. Bagley, 3-year deals from the Pistons. I think Bagley's actually been a revelation on the Pistons, so I think you had to do that. And I actually think maybe he'll start to show some of that promise. Kevin Knox. I don't like that. Lou Dort cashing in with the Thunder. I don't know why they do this. I have to assume that they're doing this with the idea that they're going to try to trade him at some point, because I don't think he really fits the plans for the Thunder, at least in my opinion. He's a little bit too old. I don't think he fits with the future movement they're doing right now, so I would assume they're going to try to move him at some point, so they want to lock him down prior to that. Tyus Jones, perfect. Yeah, you need a backup for John Morant, and he played really well in his stead, so I think that's good. Boucher for the Raptors, I think he's really solid. He'd hang on to Victor Oladipo and Dedmon, sure. Whatever. Joe Ingles to the Bucks, I actually think is really decent, and the re-signing of Bobby Portis is huge. But Joe Ingles, I actually think will fit really, really well in that Bucks team. There was times during the playoffs this year that their shooting went completely ice cold, and if there's one thing you can count on from Joe Ingles is he'll at least be able to shoot the ball on a consistent basis. He's going to look schlubby out there, and he's going to look like he shouldn't even be in the NBA, but he'll at least knock down open threes. So that's an improvement. Check mark. I like it. Mo Bamba staying with the Magic sucks. I hate that. I really wish that they would have let him go flourish elsewhere, specifically on the Chicago Bulls, so it would have been great. I just don't know what that's really going to do for them. I don't know. They don't seem to let him get enough run, and I mean, he does have issues as well on his own. And Gary Harris, I just don't know why they kept Gary Harris for $26 million. That seems ridiculous. That doesn't exactly fit their plans either. He's kind of an older player at this point. It's not like 9 years in the league, but he's not in line with the plans that what plans do the Magic even have at this point? Truly, I have no idea. So whatever. I don't know. PJ Tucker and Daniel House Jr. in Philly. I think PJ Tucker's phenomenal, and he'll fit really, really well in Philly. So fine. House, whatever. Okay. Cool. Anthony Simon's a $100 million deal. Yeah, I mean, he's 23 years old and played really, really well last year. So I think you almost have to do that, but that seems like a lot. Bradley Beal, all right, look, realistically, I don't know what Washington's doing. I don't think they're in a position where they're going to be able to contend. I don't think they are. And I think they know that too. And I mean, this is a 10-year vet for a 5-year, $251 million. I don't know. You don't want to let him walk for nothing, but man, you also don't want to bankrupt your team by signing this guy just to consistently get around the 8th seed in the playoffs. I mean, maybe some of the younger players will start to flourish. I mean, you have Denny, you have Rui, Kristaps could have a resurgence, maybe, probably not. Kuzma's good. They have $1.5 million wings, like Corey Kispert, whatever. But I don't know what this does for your team. I don't. Anthony Gill and DeLon Wright came in here. Cool. Malik Monk, I talked about this once again. I don't know what this does for Sacramento, but I'm completely baffled by everything that they're doing. Batum and Amir Coffey for the Clippers, I think is good. Fine. DeAndre Jordan joining the Nuggets, fine. Whatever. He can come out here and get boards and stuff. Cool. The Kevin Durant situation I'll cover in a separate video. It is what it is. And Kemba Walker. He got bought out. I don't know. I don't know where he's going to go, and I don't know who cares. But it is what it is. As always, it's been your boy Cheap Loots. Hey, if you want more content like this, I made a second channel. You know, it's called Mids Only. You should go check it out. I'm going to do all my video game reviews and NBA stuff over on my second channel and third channel, so you should check that out. It'll be in the link in the description. So have a good day. Peace.